What's good, YouTube? My name is Naya. Welcome back to my channel. Gang, now today, I'm coming with y'all with another little video. Today, we're coming with y'all with three scary footages caught by the Ring doorbell camera. So, if you're new here, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and further, because y'all already know what the latest in the game. Without further ado, let's get on with this video game.
This happened in recent times, and I'm still trying to
I'm scared. I'm scared. Oh my God, I'm scared. I'm sorry, y'all. Hold on.
recover from the trauma of it. I rented an apartment in a calm and quiet building.
If y'all ain't... Look at the cat! Bro, I'm scared. Maybe it's the music.
It was a 5-story building. People who lived there hardly talked to each other. The neighborhood where I live is also not in its best shape. Robberies, kidnappings often take place here. Being a bartender in a local pub doesn't suffice me with a good number of choices where I can afford to live somewhere expensive at this point. That's why this apartment was the only roof over my head. I lived on the 3rd floor. In the exact opposite apartment lived a woman in her late 30s. Her name was...
Okay, I think I saw this one already, y'all. Hold on. Yeah, I saw this one already. Alright, we're gonna do a different one.
Million subscribers.
My parents were abusive to me growing up. My father was the traditional sort who believed girls like me could be treated like parents' property. I moved out of the house as soon as I turned 18 and moved in with my boyfriend, Tom, who I had to date in secret while I was with my parents. I lived with Tom in his house for a while. During that time, I ended up getting my own job and making a decent amount of money from it. While he wasn't abusive like my father was, he seemed to worry about me focusing on my career as much as I did. Tom and I broke up after about 2 years of living together. I moved out of his house when we did, though we parted on good terms and I continued to text him regularly as a friend. I managed to score myself a pretty sweet deal, renting a small house in a relatively safe neighborhood. Sure, the place was a little worse for wear, but I wasn't picky. Tom even came over to help me clean up and move my stuff. It rained heavily on the first night at my new house, so Tom ended up staying over, waiting for the rain to stop. We watched hilariously bad movies on the couch with a bag of popcorn, just like old times. I almost regretted breaking up with him. He was one of the few people I trusted enough to talk about my familial problems with. But while it pained me to leave him, I wasn't about to give up my aspirations for a guy, no matter how cute. Hey, Stacy, are you sure you'll be all right alone? I'll be fine, Tom. You know I'm a tough gal. I know. I can't help but worry, though. Your parents have been looking for you again. Has he contacted you? I think he's been contacting everyone you knew in high school through Facebook. Good thing I deleted my Facebook account then. Does he know about us? Or my new place? I hope not. I didn't tell him anything, but some of our former classmates might have. So just stay safe. All right, Stacy? I will, Tom. I will. It was a little unsettling to know that.
Stay safe. Okay, Stacy. Stacy. I will, Tom. I will. So dramatic.
That my dad was getting back on my trail, but I thought I'd be fine as long as I didn't advertise myself on social media that I didn't use anyways. That mindset lasted for about a week. I was just getting used to my daily routine. Getting up around 7, arrive at work around 9 in the morning, leave at 5 in the afternoon, and return home around 6 or 7. Rinse and repeat. It might seem boring for some, but I found comfort in the predictability it provided me. Until one day, I came back home to my house and found an unstamped envelope in my mailbox. Without a stamp on it, I knew whoever sent it to me must have done it by hand instead of through the mail. I initially thought it must have been an advertisement for something being handed out at random, so I opened the envelope expecting to be convinced to buy something I didn't need.
I can sell the items I don't use and get insane deals on the brands I love.
What is up with the music switch up and stuff?
Instead, I found a piece of paper with a single scratchy sentence written on it with black Sharpie. I know where you live, Stacy. After what Tom had told me about my father, I immediately freaked the fuck out. I checked the door and thankfully found it still locked. When I was sure no one had broken in, I rushed inside, locked the door, and ran into my room. I called the police to report the letter, and while I waited for them to arrive, I gave Tom a call to tell him what had just happened. He listened to me being a blubbering mess with the patience of a saint, gently reassuring me whenever I got too hysterical. After 2 years of being with me, he'd gotten good at calming me down whenever I had nervous breakdowns over my past. When the police arrived, they checked the letter in my mail and promptly told me that they couldn't do anything since no major crime has been committed, and I had no evidence that I wasn't the one who put the letter there in the first place. Of course, I was pissed at that answer, but the lazy police officers responded to my protests with only apathy. Their bored faces told me they just wanted to get away from me as quickly as possible. Once they left to go snack on donuts or whatever the hell my taxpayer money was paying them for, I locked myself in my room and called Tom to vent about the whole situation. Again, he listened to me ramble on about how pissed off I was until I calmed down enough to think rationally. I suggested that I should buy a new Ring camera for my door, so that if whoever left the note decided to come back, I'd have some evidence.
Oh my God, let's go, because these are real footages.
To present to the police. He agreed and even helped me pick out a decent Ring camera at the store the next day after work. I drew the line when he offered to help me install it at home, though. We were still broken up, and I decided to learn how to take care of myself anyways. It took me way longer than it should have, but I managed to install the Ring camera for my front door and link it to my phone the day I bought it. Not gonna lie, I was pretty proud of myself. I went to bed that night feeling safer. 3 days later, and I had almost forgotten about the letter in the mail. I managed to convince myself that it was just a random prank and that it only had my name on it because Stacy, coincidentally, also was a slang term for a woman in general. But as I was working in my cubicle at my office job, I suddenly got a notification from my phone. At first, I thought I got a text from Tom and eagerly checked it. Instead, I was notified that my Ring camera had caught someone standing at my door. I felt my body temperature drop, but I couldn't just ignore it. I tapped to see the live feed on my Ring camera and let out a shrill scream at what I saw.
We bout to see it, I think. I'm scared. If this is whack, y'all suck.
My phone dropped to the ground and I stumbled backwards while hyperventilating. My father was a cruel man. He'd beat me whenever I did something he didn't like, and if he felt like I was being especially bad, he'd put on a twisted clown mask to scare me to death while beating me to death too. The visage of that damn mask with its mocking grin has been burned into my mind. And standing before my front door, captured clearly by the Ring camera, was a man wearing that exact same twisted clown mask. Seeing it again after 2 years away from my sadistic father's clutches, I felt like a little kid about to be punished by his hands again. Everyone at the office stopped what they were doing to stare at me. My logical brain told me that there was nothing to be afraid of because I wasn't there with that masked man in person, but my body just wouldn't listen. I finally snapped out of my trance when I saw the masked man leave my front door. But by that time, my boss had to come to tell me to take the day off because I was in no state to be working. He was right, but I didn't want to go home yet either. I ended up calling Tom and staying over at his place for the night. He was nothing but understanding and assured me that I'd be okay. Long story short, we hooked up and we got back together. When I woke up the next morning, I found a note.
I'm actually happy that y'all did that because it is kind of dangerous living by yourself in a weird town like that, you know? And the fact that your dad found out where you live by messaging people off Facebook. I didn't even know high schoolers have Facebook. I mean, that ain't none of my business, but let's go on with the video.
On the nightstand from Tom saying that he was out for work and that breakfast was on the table. He really was a nice guy. As I ate the bacon and eggs he left on the dining room table for me, I thought of a way to repay him for all he's done for me. Tom was always bad with laundry while we were dating, so I decided that washing and ironing all his smelly clothes for him would be a good way to show him my appreciation. But as I was sorting out his dark and light clothes for the washer, I found something that would shatter everything I thought I knew about him forever.
It's the mask. It gotta be the mask.
Because hidden amongst his clothes in the laundry basket was a mask. The exact...
What Oh my God. Okay, so he manipulated her a little bit because he knew that she would be scared and that he's the only person that she's in contact with. My God, that's psycho. So that must mean that he killed her dad, or her dad was in on it. I don't know.
That same type of mask worn by my father when he beat me, and by the man caught on my Ring camera just a day ago.
Where's the real footage? It was supposed to be footage. It was supposed... Oh my God.
I am 99% sure that everyone in this world is battling with...
I'm scared to react to this one. I don't know if I should end this video or go ahead with it. I think I'm gonna go ahead with it.
a deep secret in one way or another. Some of us more than others. But unfortunately, for me, the dark secret that I kept ate at my soul for over 15 years. As I would lay numerous nights, sitting awake and wishing that I could throw my conscience away. But like every other person, I learned to live with it. And I kept it buried away from everyone. But as they say, karma is a bitch. And little did I know that she had the adamant intent of revealing my dark secret to everyone. I was 27 years old at the time of this incident. I was working a normal 9-to-5 job, and I really didn't have any problems in my life. Well, that was till one fateful Tuesday night. I had laid down to go to sleep after a long day of work, and at exactly 12 a.m., I was abruptly awoken by the sound of my Ring camera's motion alarm. This has happened a while back, and I remember going outside to see some stray cats on my porch. I thought the same was happening again, so I ignored it and went back to sleep. The next morning, before I went to work, I decided to be on the safe side, so I poured myself a cup of coffee and I began to check out the Ring camera's footage. I told myself it was nothing, as I fast-forwarded through the hours leading up to 12 a.m. But as soon as the video hit 12, I saw a woman walk up to my porch. She had red, puffy eyes.
I knew I shouldn't have reacted to this one.
And she looked directly at the Ring camera with a death stare. While her face was contorted in anger, she was smiling from ear to ear. Now, immediately when I saw the woman, I felt my stomach clench as I threw up the coffee that I had drank. When I was done, I began to back away from the laptop saying, "No, no, no." It felt like I
It must be his ex. I don't know.
was suffocating as the room began to close around me. I laid on the floor trying to catch my breath and calm down. Now, I wasn't acting like this because a random woman walked up to my doorstep and started staring creepily at my Ring camera.
His ex.
No, I was acting like this because I knew the woman who appeared in the video. Her name was Olivia Cole. And the reason why I was trembling was because Olivia had been dead for over 15 years. I was pretty sure of this because I watched her die. It happened when I was in the 7th grade. I was 12 at the time, and Olivia was my best friend. It was after school, and we were playing on an old monkey bar in the playground. Olivia was playing dangerously at the edge of the monkey bar, but I didn't say anything
She fell.
as she was having fun. But in the following 2 minutes, I would regret that decision as I watched her lose her footing and fall to the concrete floor. The sound of her skull cracking as it connected with the floor is something that I still hear every time I go to sleep at night. As I was 12, the incident gave me a lasting trauma as I had to see a lot of therapists. After the horrific accident, Olivia and her family moved away and I hadn't heard anything about them. But now, over 15 years later, I'm apparently seeing someone who looks exactly like their dead daughter at my doorstep. I called in sick to work that day as the incident shook me to the core. That night, I laid awake in my bed as I was too scared to sleep, and at exactly 12 a.m., the Ring camera's motion alarm began to blare like crazy. I froze through the sound of the alarm as my body was paralyzed with fear. The alarm stopped after an hour, and I was completely drenched in sweat. I made my way to the living room and I checked the Ring camera's footage. Once the timestamp hit 12 a.m., just like the night before, I saw her walk up to the door and stare at the camera. This time, she looked directly at it and said, "I know what you did." She began to repeat the line over and over again as she kept staring at the camera. The footage was terrifying as I felt my heart sink. I realized that I was at a block road.
Oh my God. I'm scared. Come on. How many minutes left? 5.
As I knew I couldn't call the cops. There was no way I could call and tell them that the spirit of my dead best friend was stalking me at night. I also couldn't tell any one of my friends, as I knew that they'd all look at me like I was crazy. I was alone in this, and I finally came to the resolution that for the sake of my sanity, I had to deal with it myself. I stayed awake that night after that, waiting for her to appear again. I held a metal pipe in my right hand and a Bible in my left as I told myself that I wanted to cover all bases. I watched the live footage in my room till it was 11:59 p.m. And by 12 a.m., I saw her walk up to the door. She stood there for about 5 minutes before she brought out a pen to pick my lock. Seeing that made me reconsider a lot of things, as I knew that if she was a restless spirit, she wouldn't be hindered by a door. After a few minutes, my lock eventually came loose and I heard the door creak open behind me. Not knowing that she was a human being, I held the metal pipe tight in my hand as I heard her footsteps in the dark living room. The woman who I assumed was Olivia then said, "I know what you did. I saw you. I saw everything that happened." Without thinking, I rushed towards her with the metal pipe and I swung the weapon at her. She managed to dodge the blow as she immediately reciprocated the attack by slapping me across the face. We began to struggle for a while before I managed to push her off me. Having gotten another opening, I swung the pipe at her leg and the woman fell to the floor screaming. I immediately raised the pipe above my head to deal the final blow, and that's when the woman screamed out, "Are you gonna kill me the same way you killed Olivia?" Those words made me freeze, and before I could do anything, the cops had entered into the house. Apparently, my neighbor had called in a noise complaint, and me and the woman were taken to the station for questioning. When we got there, they questioned the woman before questioning me. They asked me what happened, and I told them the whole story. The police officer then said, "The woman who broke into your house claimed you killed her cousin Olivia Cole, and she said this was her main motive behind what she did. Is this true?" I hesitated before answering. "She's lying. She's just a psycho who stalked me for the last 3 nights. As I told you earlier, Olivia was an old best friend who died in an incident. That woman is crazy." The cop then said, "Okay, ma'am, we're sorry for the baseless accusations. We'll lock up the woman for breaking into your house immediately." As they took her
Did he just say ma'am?
away, I watched the woman who was now crying, screaming at me saying, "Are you really going to keep lying? I watched you kill her and pass it off as an accident. You killed my cousin, and she was like a sister to me. Tell the truth. Tell the truth." I couldn't keep it in any longer as I screamed, "I did it. Yes, I did it." The cops stopped taking her away as they all began to listen to me. And for the first time in 15 years, I began to scream out the secret that had been a huge weight on my chest. I was just a kid. I didn't like how Olivia was spending time and making friends with the other girls in the 7th grade. I was angry, so I decided to hurt her just a little. That's why I pushed her down from the monkey bars. I really didn't want her to die, but she did. I was scared, so I lied. I killed her. I killed Olivia Cole when I was 12 years old. I broke down crying after the confession. The cops who just heard me confess to a 15-year-old murder walked up to me and put me in handcuffs. After a while, when my lawyer arrived, I found out that the woman who was stalking me was Charlotte Cole. She was the cousin of Olivia, and they looked completely alike. Apparently, she had come to get Olivia with her aunt from school that day, and she saw me push her cousin to her death. She said she didn't say anything, as she too was also dealing with the trauma, and after 15 years, she felt that the only way to be at peace was to get justice and revenge. So knowing she looked like Olivia, she decided to track me down and make me pay for what I did by messing with my sanity. This incident happened over 2 months ago. As the case is a peculiar one, it's still ongoing. And while I know the probability of me going to prison is there, I have never felt so free in my life. As for the first time in 15 years, I can finally sleep peacefully.
I'm so glad that's over. That was scary. I don't think I can do these for much longer. Cause it's like the surround sound with the headphones makes it terrible. But like, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a big fat like on this video. Make sure to comment and subscribe if you're feeling, because you already know we the latest game. Without further ado, I'ma see y'all in my next banger, gang. Peace.